Hello, how can you grow your own food to save money in groceries? Well, we are going to take a tour of a garden that I just work on with my family. It is on a property that we do not visit often. I do not visit often. My husband comes here to mow, but I don't come often. So when I came today, I recorded a video, the previous video where I showed the grass that was in the garden before. I was doing that. My kid harvested walnuts from some trees, walnut trees that we have on the property. So yeah, walnut is, if you have it on your property, you may not be able to plant apple trees, but again, that's a nut. If you know how to process, you can get your own nuts for consumption. So we harvested those, and I'm going to ask them to search online how to process it, because that green needs to rot before we can really harvest the nuts inside out of the shell. So I'm not there yet, but the property has some walnut trees at the edge of the property, but I think on the property as well. So we harvested those, and the property is sitting on half acre. The garden, I tried to decrease the grass portion of the property so that we don't have to mow a lot, but I'm not there yet. And the portion that I fenced to garden, I'm not able to keep the grass out yet, because I started the garden raw on the grass. But since I'm not here often, I'm not able to mulch the garden often, so the grass tend to grow quite. But what I do is I will mow the grass, and then I will mulch the bed with it. So I'm trying to use the strategy here to keep the bed busy with plants, and then I can focus on the pathway. Right now we are bringing car boxes that we can lay on the pathway, and we have been doing that, and that just keep the grass out over time. So if you want to start your garden and right away, like today for instance, and there is something that can grow in your area at this time of the year, one thing you can do is put cardboard boxes down on the grass. Mow your grass down and put cardboard boxes down. After 3 weeks, when you lift the cardboards, your grass will die down, and you'll be able to dig and plant. And as whatever you planted start growing, you can just continue mulching them so that the grass can stay low and low, and over time the grass will be out. So that's how I started. And earlier, the previous video, I showed the garden, and you can see those onions that are growing. So what I did is, after I mow, I focus on the bed. So I harvested the baby onions from the onion, Egyptian walking onion, and I planted them in some bed. So we are going to walk around and take a look at that. But in the process, I dug out some that my cat can take home. I took them out of a patch that has horseradish, and I cut the horseradish roots in pieces so that I can propagate it. And since they are growing next to the horseradish plant, it came out as well. You can see how huge it is, and that's winter onion or Egyptian walking onion. So if you're wondering when is the best time to harvest your Egyptian walking onion, or when do you know to harvest them, in our zone 5A, July is the right time to harvest them. It's kind of hard here. You can see how my fingers are dirty. So that's July is the right time to harvest them. But just harvest what you can eat. and keep the rest in the ground so that you can propagate, you can increase your patch of onion. That way over time you won't have to buy onion from the grocery store. Don't eat the bulb from the ground because they are perennial. You want to grow them so that you don't have to keep buying onion over time. So those are the bubbles. When you dig this out in July, you might replant the bubbles. They might grow back, but it's not really the right time to harvest those bubbles. It's good to wait until the stem that is supporting them is browning. That way you know they are mature, they get enough nutrients from the mother bulb and they are mature enough for you to harvest them. But even at this point, some of them are growing already, feeding on the mother plant, and they are growing. You can see how this one is already this huge leaf growing on it. But yeah, otherwise when you have them, you can keep the mother bulb and just eat the bubbles because the bubbles are edible, and I'm going to harvest some of the bubbles so that I can take it home, put it inside and eat them. So I didn't really work on this bed because it's already busy with onion. This one has lamb squatter growing, and lamb squatter is a wild plant that is edible. It's in the spinach family. So I cut some down so that I can get to the ground, and I planted. I cut the bubbles from the onion. That see the way that one is bearing down, or the one that are laying down on the ground. So I cut the bubble at the end of those stems and peel them apart. And with my daughter, we just plant them here. And we have garlic, a hardneck garlic growing in this bed, and I just add a lot of onion in it so that it can grow. And the way I did it, I have grass that I used to mulch the bed before. So when I came, I moved it out of the bed and then I planted, and I just let it like that, lightly cover it, because if I mulch it, it might keep the onion from growing. So I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to mulch it because naturally when they bend down and touch the ground, they just root. So I'm not going to mulch yet so that I can give them a chance to grow. And when they start growing, then I can mulch between them. So you can see, like this one, for example, I will harvest it, take it home. I have a bucket. I need to use scissors to do that. But you can see the onion. It touched the ground here. It touched the ground, and you can see how all of that grew together. And you can see how huge they are. Even the one in my house are not this huge. So you can see how huge they are. And they have been here since 2019. I believe, if not before, but I think it's 2019 that I planted them. So yeah, on this bed we did have horseradish at the end of the bed, and I mulched the bed with grass carrying the grass. So I took the grass, I pretty much dug under the horseradish to pull some out, chop it in pieces and planted them. But some came with the plants, the leaves. So pretty much cover this bed with it. And the goal is to keep to plant close to each other so that they can grow, establish, and cover that bed. That way the grass will stay out. At this point, that's the strategy I wanted to use. Since I'm mulching sufficiently, I wanted to do that. And I have some onion growing here, but you have to think, if you are not going to harvest the bulb from the onion, but you are going to harvest horseradish, it may not be a good idea to plant them together for the reason that when you are digging the horseradish out, you might dig your onion out. And that's what happened to those onions that I showed you earlier. They came out of the hole because you see this one is going raw close to the horseradish, and many were growing like that, and they came out when I was digging the horseradish. But I pretty much covered this bed with horseradish. Since the property is going to be remodeled and rented out, I wanted to keep some bed. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but you know, that one does show that the root is edible. That's the roots. And this one is onion as well, but I have some rhubarb planted there, and they are doing okay. So I'm not going to do anything to it. So when we come back here, I have
Mommy, I found this.
sun roots. Yeah, put it back. Put it back the container for me, the green container. Thank you. I planted some sun roots. You eat the roots. I think they do flower like sunflower, but you eat the root, and the root you can cook it like potato, but I think there's sugar in it. Jaden, I'm recording. Yeah, that one go add it too. So the root can, if you want low sugar carb, the root is that. So, but something has been eating them here, so they are now really, I have a bed for them, but they are now populating the bed. So that's another one there. So what I did is I dug some rhubarb and just planted them here. So 2 rhubarb from the onion patch here. One was not doing well. The other, it was good, but to dig it out was kind of challenging. So I put them out to damage some of my onion doing that. But they came out in small pieces. So I was just able to plant them in pieces and mulch them. Because they are plants that are already growing, I was able to mulch them. But when I planted the onion bulb, I didn't mulch them the way I mulched the horseradish and the rhubarb. So I have the rhubarb growing here so that their leaves, when they establish within 2 years, they'll be able to cover this area and keep the grass out. That's the goal. So right now my strategy is to keep the bed busy so that when those things that I'm growing establish and keep the grass out, most of the grass out, I can just hang cut the grass inside of it. You can see where they are really growing. Grass is not growing there. So that's the goal. So I put some cardboard boards. Last time we were here, I put them down so that I can keep some grass out. You can see there is not much grass here, but I do have creeping Charlie. And by the way, creeping Charlie is a wild plant that is edible and medicinal. So have them here, and I move the cardboard box and the grass clipping on the side, and I planted onion. And you can just see how I planted them. You can even see them on the ground. The thing is, when they touch the ground, they will root. But because I like to scatter things, if I scatter them, you can see them here, and I have mulch around, and they are sitting on the mulch, they may not root. That's why I move the mulch to the side and I put them down. And one thing I could do is just scatter some clipping on them to keep them a little bit covered. But other than that, I'm not going to do much. So we have a garlic patch, and that's the patch that I planted garlic. And back in 2019, I planted garlic and strawberries. But the strawberries didn't do well because 2020, 2021, I didn't come here. So when I came in 2022, I'm not sure. I think I should have come in 2021. Anyway, I don't know, but 1 year, full year for sure, I was not here 2020. And when I came, I didn't see the strawberries, but the garlic were here. So you can see the garlic. So what I did is, first when I started, I really used a hoe. We put it away now, but I used a hoe to dig made lines, rows, and planted them so that I can really plant them close to each other to really pack a lot. Then when I got tired, I just started scouring them around. But yeah, I pretty much cover the bed so that next time I'm here, if they start growing by then, I'll be able to mulch between them if that's possible. And while we are talking about them, let's take a look at soft net garlic. Soft net garlic does not grow a stiff stem that will carry the bubbles, but you might think soft net garlic does not grow bubbles, but they do. And this is soft net garlic. You can see does not have that stiff stem, but they do carry their bubbles few feet away from the ground, and I'm very surprised to see those carrying it that high. But you can see them how they are all growing together in one spot here, and that is their bubbles. And I was even thinking about harvesting them and planting them, but I didn't get to it. And this one is carrying 2 rows, one here and one here. So I just got one out, and yeah, I think I will, maybe what I will do, I'm not going to get the whole right now, but I'm just going to be, spreading them around. And I'm just going to I'm not going to mulch the bed. So that means the grass can grow back again, but I'm going to give them a chance to grow, because if I mulch too heavily, they may not grow. So I'm just going to scatter them around. Okay, so and you can see the onion that I planted. Just scatter them around. And here I put some horseradish down as well, and some long roots. I chopped them in pieces and I just put them here. Don't know if I'll be able to dig one out. We didn't plant them too deep, but I'm not going to dig too much. Yeah, don't need to dig too much. You can see the roots. So cut those. They had to really hand pull it to cut it out. So that's just that. But those came with the roots and the plants, and that's how we plant them. So that because they make very big, large leaves, they can really cover this small patch as well. And this variety that I have, I think the leaves is edible. Like you can cook it, like in soup or something like that. But I have not tried. But I purchased them from FedcoSeeds.com, and it said in the description that the leaves are edible. So that's the type of work we did in the garden today, and we are ready to leave. And I just wanted to show you how we try to raise a garden here so that we can harvest some vegetables from our own garden, and over time we don't have to purchase those. So having this garden here, when we come to work on the property, I found things that I can harvest at home. So this time is going to be the onion bulbs. We have so many growing, so I planted so many, but we still have so many on the plant. So I'm going to harvest some home for eating, but my best way of planting onion is just to peel them and just toss them in the area that I want them to grow, and I'll just scatter them. But here my daughter and I, we really dug and plant so that they can actually touch the dirt, because I want to really see that I'm planting them very close together, like 3 inches apart from each other on one row, and about 6 inches between the rows. So thank you so much for watching. If you have a space on your property, you can grow your own vegetables. You can give it a try. We have onion at home that we have been growing since 2014, Egyptian walking onion that is still called winter onion. And over time, we just don't buy onion from the grocery store anymore. So we eat the leaves, we eat the bulbs on top that you are looking at, and sometimes we eat the bulbs from the ground, but I don't eat a lot of those because I want to propagate the onion. And right now we have so many that I could easily dig some from the ground for eating, and I've been doing that this summer. So especially what I like to do is when they are on the pathway, they are in the garden, but they are now growing bubbles, because some don't grow bubbles when they are too small, or the bubbles fell off of the plant. I'll dig those. So I've been doing that because in summertime you won't find the green leaves from them. Although the baby bubbles have been growing leaves that you can harvest. I harvest the bubbles for eating in summer, and sometimes I'll harvest the mother as well. But I've been going out harvesting some of those to eat, because you can see them. There are so many, and we have been propagating them year after year. So, and having them on a second property, you can see, how many beds here with onion on them. So we don't need to buy onion from the grocery store. So we just, in spring and fall, we harvest the leaves, rinse them, chop them, and put them in freezer bag, and put them in the freezer for winter use and spring use. And then spring, when they start growing, I just harvest from the garden when I'm cooking something, and then I'll harvest for freezing for winter use as well. So, and in summer, when I don't find the green leaves, I can cook without the onion, and then when they start growing the bubbles, I can harvest the bubbles and chop them directly into my food that I serve already. And I can dig the bulb from the ground as well, like the way I explained it earlier, lightly, and then use those as well. So that's one way you can just pick one vegetables that if you propagate enough in your garden, you won't have to buy it anymore from the grocery store. So garlic is another one that those hardneck go to seed, and those seeds fall down and they grow more garlic. So the leaves is what we use to spice our food. We do not use the bulb from the ground. But when you have a large patch of it, you can use some from the ground. But we just leave them in the ground and use the leaves. So sorrel is another one, and we have sorrel growing here, and that sorrel that is going to seed, but it produces some shoots on the stem that is carrying the seed. It produces some shoot on it, and I like to peel that shoot and replant, and that's how I propagate them as well. And maybe I'll be able to find a shoot to show you, and I just propagate them until I have a lot on the property, because I can use it to replace spinach and lettuce. So over time you won't need to purchase spinach or lettuce from the grocery store. So this is just an example, but not quite a good one. But you know, they can grow taller than that, and I will just peel them off and planted them. But it'll be later on that I will have. I think this one might be a very good example. And that's that. And I can find many of those shoots, and that's another one growing there too. I can find many of those shoots on this stem, and I'll just peel them off by hand and just dig a hole in a moist area and put it in it, and they just root very quickly. That's an easiest way to propagate your sorrows, and it has been between the onion patch just fine without doing anything. Yeah, and I'll be able to harvest some leaves because tonight I'm going to make sourdough bread and have some salad. So we do have horseradish, which is a spice that is perennial spice root that we are using to replace spices, seeds. That way we are not going to buy spices from the grocery store. And I stopped buying spices from the grocery store beside chili pepper. So horseradish, the root is what you use. And then we have the rhubarb we can make dessert out of. And I'm thinking about taking some rhubarb from the freezer and make rhubarb sauce with some apple to go on ice cream. Since we have been working under the sun for a while, I think it'll be a good refreshment for the kids and all of us to have ice cream topped with good amount of rhubarb and apple sauce. Thank you so much for watching. And by the way, when I come here and I see dandelion, I like to harvest them as well for salad. So those are the onion falling on the floor, on the ground, and they might roll there if I don't pick them up and put them in the bed. Thank you so much for your time. We thank you very much. You all that subscribe to our channel, we thank you so much for all your comment. Yes, you can grow a garden to save money on your grocery bill. You just have to have a plan how you want to go about it and plant perennials. That way you purchase the seed once, and once they establish, you can just propagate them from what you have to have a big patch. You don't need to keep buying seeds year after year. And you can still continue planting some onions that you want to plant, but you know that at any point in your garden you have your perennial that will keep coming back for you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Afiavi Liberman, creators of Liberman Consulting L.L.C YouTube channel and ninasoap.com, our blog.